Hey, what's going on, guys? Johnny, aka Tropical Fish Guy here. Today we are going to talk about the new hobbyist, the new tropical fish keeper, the person who gets his or her first fish, brings it home, sets up the aquarium, puts the fish in, and a day or two later the fish is dead. Right, the fish dies, or the fish tank gets cloudy, and they're like, "Oh, well, what happened? I must have done something wrong." Take all the water out of the tank, clean the tank, put the water back in, put the drops in, get new fish, put the fish back in, and the tank gets cloudy again. What's going on? Why isn't as easy as the fish guy said at the fish store, right? Just put the fish in, put some drops, and you're good to go. The critical time for a new fish keeper is the first 45 days or so. And let me shout out to somebody here real quick. Yeah, today I'm going to give a shout out to Patrick Holstein. Question from him and all the other new fish keepers out there wondering, hey, I thought I did everything right. My fish died. And like I said, the most critical time for the first-time fish keeper is within the first 30, 45, 50, 60 days. First month, 2 months, right? Is when either you say, yay, I made it, and you end up loving the hobby and buying a bigger tank, buying more fish, getting into the hobby, which is awesome. Or you're like, man, this is too hard. This isn't as easy as I thought. Screw this. You end up packing your stuff and you sell the tank, and forever you will leave the hobby, right? I've seen it happen both ways. But the critical thing to know is it's not as straightforward as it seems. It's not super hard. There are things to consider. The number one thing that we're going to talk about today is what's called the nitrogen cycle, right? Or basically, don't get freaked out about that. All that is getting your fish tank built up with good bacteria, so where the fish is able to live in that fish tank, right? So imagine this, right? We've got a glass box that we're trying to put these fish in, okay? So this fish tank is a sterile environment, right? That means there's no bacteria, there's no germs, right? And you think keeping it clean, super clean, is the best way to go, when actually, kind of opposite, what you want to happen is you want to build up the bacteria in the fish tank. It sounds kind of weird, but I mean, bacteria is living in us and living beings and all over the place, right? And there's good bacteria, there's bad bacteria, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to get good bacteria built up. So the first 30 days or so is called the cycling of your tank, right? When you go to the fish store and the guy says, hey, give me a water sample, you take him a little bit of water and he says, oh, your fish tank's still cycling. Well, what does that mean? That means you're still growing the bacteria. And this critical phase in your hobbyist life, right, is the most important to either make or break you being in the hobby or not. I mean, it sounds pretty intense or tragic or important, but really it's the time that you either be patient with it and you do a couple of right things and you enjoy this great hobby that we're in, or like I said before, is when you leave the hobby forever and you say forget about it, it's too hard. So the most important thing is called either cycling your fish tank or the nitrogen cycle. What that is imagine you got your fish, right? You stick them in the fish tank, right? Okay. You feed the fish, right? You're doing a great job. all of a sudden, a day or two later, maybe the fish tank gets a little cloudy, right? Like I said before, what that is known as a bacterial bloom, or bacteria building up, right? So you're feeding your fish poops, right? Or you get some plants, and decaying matter occurs, right? The parts of the plant die off, parts of them grow, stuff like that happens. So what that does, the fish poop and decaying matter and other stuff in there, old fish flakes, that type of thing, is causing ammonia to build up, right? Ammonia. Ammonia is the #1 killer of fish. I think I did a video before, so look for it up here. I'll link to it, or look in the description, or just search the site if I forget. #1 killer fish is ammonia, right? So the first thing that happens when you get a new fish tank is that there's an ammonia spike. Ammonia goes up because there's no beneficial bacteria, good bacteria, to eat that ammonia. As the ammonia goes up, there's a couple things you can do. You can pour some bacteria in there, depending on, you know, how you want to handle it, or you just let it run. So the fish has bacteria in it. The water that your fish came in the little bag has bacteria in there. So the little bacteria is starting to multiply, right? Starting to multiply. So as the ammonia spikes, your bacteria starts to grow and eats that ammonia up. The ammonia turns to something called nitrite, right? Nitrite is pretty deadly to fish too, but it's not as deadly as ammonia. But the two things that you want to watch out for is ammonia and nitrite. And at this first, you know, I mean, it could be 10, 15, up to 30, up to a couple months. Usually it takes about 2 to 4 weeks. That time period is when the ammonia starts to build, your bacteria starts to build up, the ammonia gets converted to nitrite, nitrite gets eaten by some other good bacteria, it gets converted to nitrate. The nitrate you take out from water changes, which I've got a video on how to do water change too, or the plants eat the nitrate. So that's the whole process of that is called the nitrogen cycle. But basically, if you don't care, all it means is that it's growing bacteria in your tank. Your tank could get cloudy. It looks like there's cloud in the fish tank, or like you sometimes, if it's real bad, you pour milk in the fish tank. So what can you do? What you can do is feed very sparingly during this time frame. Don't overfeed your fish. If there's any type of fish flakes or stuff on the surface of the gravel, take that out, scoop it out with a net, or maybe do a little tiny gravel vacuum. But you don't want to change too much water during this period of time. You want it to just cycle through. That's why it's called a cycle, or a nitrogen cycle, right? You just want to cycle it through and get that bacteria built up. You want to get the, you know, with your filter, you definitely want to, when you're first starting out, you definitely want to get a filter. There are ways that you don't need a filter if you got lots of plants, but that's for more experienced hobbyists. But definitely get you a filter, especially even with fish like betta fish, goldfish, that type of thing. You want to get a filter, and a good size to start out with is, you know, you can do a 10-gallon, 5-gallon, you know. Bigger than, you know, 2-gallon. I get some bettas in some glass bases, but, you know, everyone's going to boo-hoo and flame me, and so you can't keep a betta in there, but you can. But the idea is the bigger the tank, the better. Obviously, you don't want to crowd the fish, and you want to give them as much of a happy life as you can. So heater, filter, lights, plants, especially, you know, betta fish, they love the live plants. They really dig it. And tank mates, I've got a video on tank mates somewhere there too. But, you know, shrimps, not during the cycle, not during the first 4 to 6 weeks, 2 to 4 to 6 weeks, whatever. You know, platies, mollies, live bears, neons. And you can see I've got some neons in there. I'll show you the fish maybe in a different video, but I just want to make a quick video. So the most critical time is the first 4 to 6 weeks of the new fish keepers aquarium hobbyist time frame, right? I mean, it's a great hobby, like I said. It's wonderful to get into, but there are some things that you need to know, right? There are some things that you can't do. And as you learn, you know, I mean, everybody's learning. I'm still learning. I've been in the hobby for decades, and I'm still learning stuff. You know, you always keep learning. And that's what's great about the hobby. You know, welcome to the hobby, Patrick, and all you other new hobbyists. If you got any questions, leave a comment in the box. Go to my site. I got a couple different sites. Betafishcareguide.net. I'll put that up here or in the description. And subscribe to my newsletter. You can reply directly to the newsletter. It's not one of those where you don't reply. It goes to Never Never Land. Reply directly. I try to send out one every week or so with some helpful tips and information. And you can also go to my other site, tropicalfishguy.com, for other types of fish other than betas. So betafishcareguide.net or tropicalfishguy.com, and hopefully this helped you guys out. The main thing to remember, nitrogen cycle, Google it or just watch this video. I think I explained it pretty good. Bacteria building up and all that stuff. Don't overfeed. Don't let food get on the bottom of the aquarium. Make sure the temperature, oh yeah, this is a big thing. The temperature, right, is, it can't be fluctuating, right? It can't be fluctuating. Another big thing is we talked about ammonia, talked about nitrites, but the pH needs to be even keel, right? As ammonia goes up, pH tends to get pressured because ammonia is acidic. pH kind of gets pressured to go down. So watch that pH level. If you have soft water or water that's not really got any minerals or calcium or hardness or anything to it, that's when you be careful. So you get your test kit. I think I'll put a link to the test kit below, the ones that is probably the best API test kit. I'll put a link somewhere up here below or something like that. But you want to get a test kit, very important, to measure the ammonia, the nitrite, and the pH. Make sure, and as you see, the ammonia starts to spike, right? The water gets cloudy, you kind of can't see through it. The nitrite level starts to spike. Make sure during this whole time that the pH level is steady, right? If it starts to crash, what I would do is put some crushed coral in the filter or even just in the gravel. I use about a pound of crushed coral for each 10 gallons of tank that I have. I just mix it into the gravel. It looks pretty good, looks nice. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to see that in your gravel, then, you know, I'd stick it in the filter media, you know, in a little bag or something like that. But crushed coral does a great job of keeping the pH level around 7.2, 7.4, 7.5, somewhere around there, which is a great level. So make sure that your water, and that's known as water parameters. Okay, water parameters have to be good, right? Ammonium nitrites, pH, hardness. You can use a different test kit for the hardness, but if your pH is good, everything is good. You don't have to worry too much about hardness unless you're keeping very delicate species of fish or shrimp. Then you got to worry about it. But if you got a beta, typically you don't have to worry about it, you know, too much. Excuse me. What else can I tell you, the new beginner? What I wanted to know when I first started out. It's not as easy, it's not as straightforward as you think, but it's very, very rewarding. I mean, to see, you know, fish swimming around. You're doing a great job of keeping everything healthy, happy. It's such a rewarding feeling. But let's see. Other than that, I'd say wash your hands with water every time you stick your every time you stick your hands in the tank. Don't wash your hands with soap. You know, a lot of people do, but you know, I just try to be safe and not do that. It probably won't hurt anything if you rinse real good, but you know, make sure you use good filter media. I'll show you. I've got a video on how to hot rod your filter, but don't worry about that at first. Just get through the first 30 days. Get through, and if you don't want to buy the water test kit, you can normally take a little, cup full of, maybe half a cup full of water to your local fish store, and they'll test your water for you. Or, just buy the test kit. I'll put a link somewhere up here or down here, and you can order a test kit from Amazon. They're fairly cheap, 15, 20 bucks, something like that, whatever. But I encourage you, do some basic things and know the traps that are coming. The traps that are coming, the first trap that's coming, one of the first traps is the nitrogen cycle. The cycling of the fish tank, what we're talking about today. Okay, so your tank gets cloudy, fish die. Betta fish are hardy fish. But even they'll die during a nitrogen cycle. Sometimes you can, most times you can get away with it, but there's other ways to cycle the fish tank. And I'll put probably what you want to get is Fritz-Zyme number 7 for a freshwater tank. I'll dump a whole bunch of it in a starting 10-gallon tank to get started. That's the beneficial bacteria. It's really good. I'll put a link to it up here somewhere too. I'll put a bunch of links everywhere. I'll put everything I talk about. I'll stick in the bottom in the description so that you can have one easy place. Or check out my website, tropicalfishguide.com, and I'll do and it'll be in an article, hopefully. Probably maybe a little bit after you see this, but definitely look in the description below. But hopefully I didn't ramble on too long. The most important thing to worry about is constant temperature also, but the most important thing to think about is the nitrogen cycle. You want to not overfeed your fish. You want to keep your temperature constant. Get a heater. You want the filter running good. You want possibly some live plants for your betta fish, but you can always wait till after the cycle for that. It'll actually help your cycle if you get a whole bunch, but don't spend, you don't want to spend too much money right at the beginning. You want to stay in the hobby. The hobby you can spend some money in this aquarium hobby, trust me, but you want to be, you just don't want to throw your money away, that's for sure. So if this helps out any, give me a like, comment below. Anything I forgot, I might do a follow-up, but the most important thing is the nitrogen cycle and all the other stuff I talked about. Do your thing, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification. I'd love to send you out some more videos. If I'm being helpful, please let me know. And thanks a lot for watching. Really appreciate you guys. And happy fish keeping. Peace.